Hey guys, today I'm going to bring you the crusting technique. Stay tuned. All right, so what exactly is the crusting technique? The crusting technique is something that ostomates will use, or they'll be asked to use if they've got some irritation around their stoma. Usually this irritation comes in the form of like weepy skin, irritated skin. And the whole idea of the crusting technique is to build essentially a crust of stoma powder and some kind of barrier product, and that way it allows your wafer to stick properly because it won't generally stick to weepy skin. So a couple of things you're going to need when doing the crusting technique. You're going to use stoma powder and you're going to need some kind of barrier product. Now this here are barrier wipes, but you could certainly use a barrier spray, something like 3M Cavalon or something similar to that. Now the idea, and I'm going to show you exactly how this works, the idea is to build different levels of stoma powder, ostomy, barrier wipe or barrier spray, and then you're going to layer those. Now after you're done layering those, basically you're going to allow that crust to dry, and that will give a nice dry surface for your wafer to go on. So let's get started. So as you can see here, I've got my stoma all ready to go. I've shaved the area. I've made sure that everything is dry. I've removed any kind of residue from here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just a general idea of how things work here with the crusting technique. Now keep in mind, my stoma is in pretty good shape. I wouldn't normally be doing this at this point, but you know, some people do it just as a matter of convenience, preventative type thing. But you know, in all honesty, you don't have to do the crusting technique or apply any kind of barrier product or even stoma powder if you don't need to. So wait for your nurse to say, you know, that there's some kind of problem there that needs to be addressed before you do this. So one of the common mistakes that people do is they'll actually use way too much stoma powder. Now, when I first start putting the stoma powder on, I'm going to put a pretty generous amount. And I'm going to try to cover all the areas that tend to be weepy. Now, for some people, this may extend further out, so they may have like a lot of irritation, that sort of thing, so it's going to extend out. And what the barrier powder does is it's going to stick to all those moist areas. But here's the thing, you don't want to leave this on, at least don't leave like a huge amount like what I've just done before you put your barrier product on. Now, some people may find that just using some kind of gauze pad or something like that and just kind of dusting it off is good enough for them. I tend to just hit the area around. It'll get some of the you know, larger pieces of powder off, and that's pretty much good. Now, if I were to put my wafer on like this, it's not going to stick. And that's the problem that some people have. They'll put the powder on, they'll put the wafer on, they'll say, what's going on here? My appliance isn't sticking. It's because you have to put something else on to give a better substrate for your appliance to stick to. Okay, so the second step in the crusting technique is obviously getting your barrier product. Like I mentioned, I have just a skin barrier wipe. And what this does is it basically creates a chemical film on your skin. So for some people that have irritation, they may use this product without the stoma powder, and that works just to protect their skin from maybe the adhesive or irritation when they're removing their appliance. But I'm going to be using this basically to get rid of some of the dryness on this stoma powder. You're going to want to cover everywhere basically that you've put that stoma powder. So once you've put that barrier product on, you're going to let it just sit. Usually doesn't take very long, but you want to make sure that that's all nice and dry. Now, generally speaking, with the crusting technique, you're not just going to do like one layer. You're going to usually do two or more. And that really depends on the amount of weepiness that your skin has, how much moisture there is. Remember, the crusting technique is to create a dry surface on top of moist or irritated skin. So after that's all dry, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did in the first step. So I'm going to apply some of this stoma powder here. I don't have to go too crazy this time. Now you'll notice that you'll get less sticking the second time. And that's because that weepy area that you had is probably already covered up. You're going to want to use, again, some kind of technique to remove the excess powder. That's super important. And then once you're done that, you're going to want to go over it again with your barrier product. Now, if you are using a barrier spray, I would probably cover the stoma up, maybe with some gauze or some kind of tissue or something like that before you start spraying. You don't really want to spray like right on your stoma. So I've just put the second layer on. I can very well just stop as it is and I can continue with the rest of my routine, whether that be putting a wafer on or putting maybe a barrier ring or something like that on. But some people may need to do it more than that. So you really should be talking to your nurse. They'll be the best person to guide you through this and even let you know if you need to do this. Most people don't. But I hope that's helped to explain what the crusting technique is. If you've never heard of the crusting technique, I hope you've learned something new. Until the next time, guys, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.